Welcome to the Wise Women Podcast and our debut season, Wisdom's Discovery, Finding Your Center at the Edge. Because some moments in life call us to our edge and then beckon us to expand beyond it. In this season, we dive into the shared experiences of 20 remarkable women. And through honest conversation, we explore together the moments that shape us, stretch us, undo us, and ultimately return us to ourselves. I'm Catherine Jelinek, and this is the Wise Women Podcast. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to get to introduce you to Wendy Waldron. Wendy is a certified EOS implementer and the founder of Waldron Works. Thanks for being here, Wendy.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. Really, it's a joy and an honor to be part of this project.
It's a joy and an honor to get to be on this side of this project as well. So, Wendy, where does your story begin?
My story begins, sometimes I tell people that my story begins when I was a Girl Scout. I learned that I was here to make the world a better place. And of course, I sold the cookies. But I'll tell you, Catherine, I sold those cookies by the box. Not by the box, sorry, by the case. I didn't really know the difference, I think, as a little 5 or 6 year old. And so I ended up selling them to all my uncles who worked in the woods and carried lunches to work every day and had big chest freezers. I sold them by the case and I won all the prizes. And then the next year, I told my Girl Scout friends to sell them by the case, and we all won all the prizes. And in fact, of course, my mom was Cookie Mom. And so the living room of our trailer home, it was like packed with cases of cookies. And my dad would always say, just make sure there's a path to the door. So I had that sort of, really, like we have to get out in case of fire. So there has to be a path to the front door in this living room full of boxes and cases of cookies. So that picture is that picture of an abundant home of sweetness, literally, of hardworking, smart, knowing the rules, and then like winning the game with everybody. That formed such a basis for me. And it's a pretty good picture of where I came from and then where I was going. I knew that I wanted to go to college. I knew I wanted to learn all there was to learn and go experience the world. And I knew that I would need a scholarship to do that. And so I did. I had a wonderful childhood, scholarship to Colgate University, like big changes. The rules kind of worked for me. While I was there, I was attracted to this work as a resident advisor and a head resident, a community leader, and also the boss. I had a staff of 6. I was hiring and firing and budgets and KPIs and all that before I was 21, I guess. So that skill set just seems natural to me throughout everything. Stuff that people struggle with is something that I've just always done. Now, it takes me maybe a half an hour to change a light bulb, but sure. Talking about leadership and building businesses, communities of businesses, that's what I do.
Wonderful.
So as I said, I was interested in the broader world. And so shortly after that, I spent a year in Mozambique, Africa as a volunteer.
Wow.
Partly to see if I could do it, just to see what life was really like for people like me on the other side of the planet, for families like mine, for hardworking people and schools and communities and businesses. What was it like?
Yeah.
I can't imagine who I'd be if I didn't have that experience. It's a whole different set of stories. But I did learn the definition of safety there, and that's going to come back later in the story today. So I came back and within weeks was at a family wedding, introduced there to the man that would become my husband. He was the best man in the wedding. I say he's been my best man ever since. But he's important in this story because he lived in the middle of nowhere. And when I relocated for our life together, I needed to start over again. And so eventually, after months and months, I went to a temp agency and got a job. My only request was that I be placed in their largest client, that I wanted somewhere to grow. I was not afraid of hard work, but I needed someplace to go. So I was placed at the front desk of the Big Flats Medical Clinic in Big Flats, New York, down along the southern tier. I had a day and a half of training and had to know how to use, at the time, if you can imagine, a DOS-based system and our paper cards for insurance. You press F11 or you don't know how to press F11. There were sample drugs in the drawer. Some people will remember those days where we acted almost like a pharmacy, right? And there was no system for those. So a nurse would come out with somebody's first name and like a 30-day supply with a rubber band around it of something and toss it in the drawer. No date, no last name, no organizing about who, when they got it, maybe a clipboard. And we know, as consumers of healthcare, as patients, we know that it's a mess. But inside, holy cow, so many things to fix. So I started fixing things and connecting those silos of super highly trained people who cared so much.
Right.
And we just needed to get it done. We needed to work better as a team. And I could do that. I'd always done that. Let's sell them by the case, right? Like, let's figure this out. So a couple of years later, literally 2 years later, I was not at the front desk anymore. And I was the practice manager for their cardiology and cardiothoracic surgery divisions. We had a $9.5 million labor budget. That mattered to me because I was hired for $9.50 an hour. So I wasn't making $1 million 2 years later, but there was the same digits kind of popped up, So that was the beginning of a career for me in leading medical practices, in growing them. I was a couple of years later recruited back to my hometown to grow the ancillary services of a federally qualified health center network here. And so we put in behavioral health care in clinics, Mary Care clinics. So, and we did it over and over and over again, 300% growth year over year over year for 3 years running before we slowed down a bit. I was recruited to work at the cancer center here, and pretty quickly was asked to be leading the medical oncology department with also we were retiring the founder. It wasn't a family business, of course. We did world-class research and other things, but kind of fast forward, there were lots of lessons learned there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we did was transition, you can imagine, from paper records. We were one of the last bastions of paper records. Yeah, because we had to put together, as a tertiary care center, you're putting together all of the information from other people's records. And the medical record products that were available were just barely able to do that in a better way than we could do it on paper. Transitioning now, as we look at the AI transition that's coming up for a lot of people, we didn't lose anybody we didn't want to lose from our paper-based medical records department, because their job was not just about stickers and hole punching. Their job was to know what was contained in that record and to make sure the information was there, kind of a trifecta. So we had the information and the patient, and their family, and the provider. So when they learned that, then they knew, they became our champions of that EMR. And would tell us when it wasn't good enough yet and how we needed to do it better. So, so I had quite a career building medical practices and enjoyed it for a while. It became increasingly restrictive, though. So that box that I was in felt kind of smaller all the time. And yet I thought that I was being a good Girl Scout. And I thought that I had built safety for myself and my family. I thought I did what I was supposed to do. I was a kid who grew up watching your parents work really, really hard. And not that I didn't work hard, but I wanted to make sure that, like that American dream kind of happened. And so I was at the largest employer in our entire area. I was leading their flagship service on that team. We were literally winning awards, increasing access by as much as 50% for some of those services. And then there was a Tuesday afternoon in May of 2018 at 4:14 in the afternoon.
Oh my.
When I had finally gotten the attention of the HR department for a 4:00 meeting, and I was super excited. I was building something and I needed to post a position. And she said, yes, we have something to talk to you about. And she brought the vice president in and they handed me my pink slip and said, just turn over your keys and your badge. And thanks very much. I was like, what do you mean? How can I give you my badge and get my car out of the parking lot? Because the parking garage, I need to It was a badge thing. I got really specific. There was no transition meeting. There was no, there was a thanks very much, Wendy, and like off you go.
Wow.
Right. So safety,
Abrupt.
right? Very abrupt. Tuesday afternoon at 4:14.
Hmm.
No transition meeting, no goodbye party, no 30 days. Clear out your desk. That was it. Now, I understand why organizations affect a reduction in force in that way. I have advised on such. I've been part of such before. But at that particular time, I wasn't actually all that sad. I was shocked. I was scared, maybe. I was definitely not expecting that 4:14 on a Tuesday when I requested the meeting.
Wow, yeah.
And I really, didn't like the way that it happened. But there's an edge there, right? Well, what am I going to do now? Now, we all have that choice every single morning when we get up. We can choose to do any number of things. They all have the consequences or maybe the pro-sequences, but we have that choice. But on that next day, I saw that choice very, very differently. And so that was in May. It happened that same week, our plans, we have a daughter who was young at the time, and her entire summer program was canceled.
Things
Yeah.
just happen like that, and you're like, okay, got it. We're
Okay.
getting rerouted.
Like, I'm listening, universe. So what are we going to do? So I went to the beach a lot. We went hiking, and I built a really seriously fantastic garden, like a big garden, vertical garden, enclosed,
Wow.
so colorful. I spent all summer, really, the next few weeks with our daughter and in my garden and with a journal, trying to figure out what was going on and what I was going to do. Because as I thought about going further in healthcare, it just really didn't feel like it was it. It occurred to me for the first time, how you have these moments where you can see your life differently than you do other times. And I thought, well, you know what? It was just, I don't want to say it was an accident, but it was a happenstance. It was just where I was placed. Like almost 20 years before, I just got a temp job and that became a career.
Yeah.
And I was passionate about it, but I was passionate about the building of teams. I was passionate about winning. I was not passionate about that context.
Right.
So what do I need to do now? Right. So, we're kind of on autopilot to some degree. And I was interviewing for jobs. Of course, I had a resume that was built on building healthcare businesses. And I saw it at that time as healthcare instead of building businesses. So I applied and I talked to people and I had lunch with people and I was invited for conversations with the chief medical officer and the senior vice president of something or other. And I went and I got dressed up and I was bored. I was so bored. It just didn't seem like the right path forward. And so I decided to lean into the building teams part instead, the building businesses and how humans connect and relate with each other. I'd been studying it in one way or another my whole life. So that became my path forward. And the reason that I felt like I could do that was this sort of equation occurred to me. So if I had thought before, and I had, coming from a really hardworking blue collar background, that the thing to do is to get benefits. The thing to do is to have a solid job with a big employer that was safe, that was secure. And that provides safety. And the thing not to do would be to do something adventurous or risky or unsafe, like believing in yourself that you could maybe have your own business. That seemed an irresponsible thing to do. But if there is no safety in working for the biggest employer in town and winning all the awards and being celebrated, then there's no risk in doing whatever the heck I want to do and trying to make a go of it and building businesses, building teams, believing in myself. Did I need the biggest employer in town to believe in me? No, I did not. I thought I did. I wondered if I did. There were lots of times digging in the dirt in my garden where, that garden was watered with tears. This is not an easy thing, but maybe it was avoiding some sort of midlife crisis. Maybe it was back to my literal physical roots to go and really consider the nature of the world and my place in it.
Mm.
And was I coming from, in the coaching world, we talk about an abundance mindset. That's not language that most people use most of the time, I don't think. Maybe, I hope, increasingly so.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. The opposite of that is a scarcity mindset. Scarcity is just what our brains do to keep us alive, what they've always done for eons, what animals do. We make sure that we have enough. We fear that we don't have enough. So we gather. We're like little squirrels gathering acorns.
Yeah.
We gather benefits. We gather a 401k. We gather a house. We gather these things. And those things aren't security. The job that I had wasn't security. So if that's not safety in a way that translates to the time that we're living in, well, then it's not risky not to do those things.
Right.
And so I could move forward. I could believe in the abundance of the universe, like I always used to. I used to say my biggest fear that I was wrong about the nature of the universe. I thought it was generally a good place. Well, if it's generally a good place, and I am skilled and talented, as is everybody, then I should go figure it out. And I don't have to sit in fear or scarcity or a belief that safety is given to me by somebody else.
Yeah.
Right?
But you know what's interesting is, even though that in this moment later down the road, you feel like you're having this choice of abundance and scarcity mindset, but you've always been living to some degree with the abundance mindset. If you think about that Girl Scout selling by the case, like that isn't scarcity right there either. And that's also risk, or at least the reach, right? The reach that has that entrepreneurial drive behind it. And going to like Mozambique, when you were raised in like a small town trailer park, you know, like you had the reach always, you know?
Yeah. There's a bigness to my world that's always been there, and a belief that I belong wherever I am.
I love that.
I think I have my parents, to thank for that.
Yeah.
I also think, though, that we paint ourselves into smaller and smaller boxes. Many of us do that you can kind of wake up one day and go, is this really it? Is this what I'm doing? I find that in some of the people that I work with now, where they're having something of an awakening about their leadership style or about the way they have thought about the possible future of their company. So, if you have an HVAC company, do you think that lots and lots of people are going to need HVAC services? Sure. They're going to buy them from somebody. Someone's going to be taking care of their home, and it might as well be me, right? It might as well be us. Or do we think, well, I don't know, they're a really big competitor and they have lots of advantages. I guess I'll just do this. How do we position ourselves in our own futures?
Great question.
I love it, right? I mean, because that is it. Like, what place do I have in the world? What am I owning? What am I afraid of? This moving from like fear of change, maybe, to the acknowledgement that the river's always running, that change is always happening, that life is always growing. And if we try to stay in the place that feels safe, then the river's going to run right past us because it's going, right? So whether that's the actual physical Hudson River, one of my favorite places where the river has rocks, that river flows right over those rocks all the time. Sometimes it goes around. I don't think it cares. It just keeps going. So I was in a place where I was hanging on, and I kind of knew that the structure was changing, and I knew times were changing, and that it was time probably for me to move on. But I wouldn't have given up the safety of that job. There's this picture, I was mentioning this to you before, this picture in my mind, and I don't know if this was an actual poster or a meme that I saw somewhere, but it's so clear. I'm looking out right now at this beautiful tree that's about to leaf out in the springtime. And I look at this tree, and I think, well, soon there'll be a bird on that branch. And so this picture in my mind is this little tiny bird, cute little bird, and it's all fluffed out. It's on a branch, and it looks like stormy, kind of windy. There's maybe some snow going on. It's cold. And this little bird is hanging on really tight with its tiny little feet around this tiny little branch. And it's puffed itself up to keep as warm as it can.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty picture, but you look like in looking at it, I see some bit of fear. When I first looked at this, I thought like, oh, this poor little bird. And the words though, underneath, they say the bird on the branch in the storm knows that it's safe, not because it trusts the tree, not because it trusts that that branch isn't going to break in the wind or in the storm, but because it trusts its ability to fly. So now I can look at that bird and think, oh, well, it could just fly to another branch. It could fly to another tree. It has a flock, it has a place, but it doesn't have to trust that tree branch because it can trust its ability to fly. So, going from what was perceived as the safety of a branch to understanding that there is no more risk by flying to wherever I want to go, or wherever a company leader wants to bring their company, or an individual person wants to make a big change or become who they're meant to be, what they're meant to offer this world in all its colorful glory, that I didn't have to go back to a literal office with no windows, a little black and white box that was not meant for me. I could stay in a place where I was building a colorful garden, where there was sunshine on my face, where I could walk forward. That, if there's kind of a core to my message, or one of the things that I try to reinforce and reflect for other people, it's that they have that choice too. We have that choice every day. So to stay in your strength and in that colorful garden.
That's beautiful. And that is my closing question, is like, how would you summarize the wisdom you gained from this, or the wisdom that you're sharing through this story?
Maybe it has something to do with fear and freedom, that we are designed, our brains are designed to keep us safe from saber-toothed tigers. And now there are very few of them around. We have tigers, maybe.
Yeah.
But that most of our days, like there's very little quicksand in my life. When I was a kid, I thought there was going to be lots of quicksand and it was a big problem. And I had to avoid the quicksand from all the comics and things like that. That's just not true. So there are dangers, certainly, but they probably aren't as big as we think they are in relation to the freedom that's on the other side. So I think it's about fear and freedom and right sizing those things for ourselves.
And that line that you had in the middle, where it was like your proper placement of yourself in your future.
Yeah, to make a place for yourself in this world. If you can see it, then go make that place. So how do you conceive of yourself in your own future? And what do you need to do to get there? And that it's worth it.
Yeah. Beautiful. And that you've got wings, even if we've forgotten.
Oh my gosh. So we absolutely have wings. We are the little bird with the wings. We have big, beautiful wings. I actually, most of the time at the end of the day, I'll tell the team that I'm working with I'll invite them to sit back, oxygenate a little bit, open up a little more space for themselves, fold their wings back before they go out into the world. Yeah. Yeah. We have wings.
Beautiful.
We have roots. We have wings.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It was a beautiful story and such a heartfelt reminder that we get to choose, and there's safety in staying with what we really would love to be doing.
Yeah. Oh, there's a line that there's safety in staying with what we love to do. There's safety in being ourselves and bringing our whole selves into our future. Yeah, that's a great way to think about this. That's a new thing. Thank you.
Back to you.
Thank you for that gift. I appreciate that, Catherine.
Oh God, I appreciate getting to hear your story. It's very, it's beautiful and inspiring. And I love the Girl Scout who's just selling them by the case throughout your entire life and continuing to do so.
Yeah, there is a bigness. That's a word that I have always seen as possible for not just me, but for everybody. So there's a thing my mom used to tell me when we were getting dressed up to go someplace, and she was fussing a little bit when I was a little kid. She'd say that she would tell me that I was beautiful and that I was special. And then she would be like fussing about something on a collar or my hair or something. And then we had a refrain where she would give me a big kiss and then she would say, and I would refrain with her, just like everybody else.
Yes.
Yes, of course, build yourself up and see that in everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way the world is. And I see that to this day. And so if you don't see that about yourself and you're feeling a little stuck in a box, I'm here to tell you it's still true.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
What a delight.
I appreciate this recording. I am excited to see where this goes, what wings it finds, and what place in the world we create for ourselves in doing this and helping others, especially more women.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for this chapter and your heartfelt story and the reminder that we have wings. It's beautiful.
What a cool day for you, too. Like, this is like collecting.
I mean, it's been like 18, 19 of these cool days. I really love this project. And for everybody else tuning in, it's been really special. So thank you. Thank you for listening to the Wise Women podcast. You can find the book, Wisdom's Discovery, Finding Your Center at the Edge, on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com. And keep listening to the wisdom that your life is offering you.